You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's April the 15th, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. We're live here from the Legacy420.com news desk, and we're live at paceradio.net. Good morning, as I said, everyone. Hopefully you had a fantastic weekend. I can tell you from my view, looking out here at the windows, it's nothing but blue sky and sunshine here, and hopefully it is the same where you are. Just let everybody know that Rev Cindy, she is off to BC, and she won't be back till about the 29th, like as far as the first show back here. And Glenn is still in the process of moving, but he should be ready to go by Thursday. So they'll be back along here shortly. But until then, I'll just keep plugging away. I'll get the news stories out to everybody, because to me, news is always important, and it can also be very educational. So let's get at our first story of today. Comes to us from Vancouver. It is awesome. Says that Health Canada warns City of Vancouver over licensing mushroom dispensary. Interesting. There's a dispensary right there. Yeah, Health Canada sent a letter to Vancouver City Manager Mike Marchery over concerns that two Green Party councillors overturned a ruling of the city's chief license inspector to suspend the business license of a magic mushroom dispensary. The March 15th letter, obtained by Glacier Media, is authored by a Health Canada staff member and on behalf of Acting Director General Carol Ann Chenard of the Controlled Substance and Opioid Response Directorate. It is important that psilocybin mushrooms are controlled under the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. The letter states storefronts selling psilocybin in the general public are not authorized to do so under the CDSA and its regulations. Therefore, such storefronts may be subject to law enforcement action. The letter, which they received in response to a 2-1 decision back on March the 5th, by Council's Business License Review Panel that overturned a recommendation by Sarah Hex. That's the city's chief license inspector and city lawyer Robert LeBlanc. Hicks had suspended the business license of the medicinal mushroom dispensary at 247 West Broadway back in May of 2023. The panel heard that Valentine Mueller had applied for a license as a retailer of gifts and novelties and was granted a business license on January the 1st of 2023. In March that year, a city property inspector visited the business and reported that illegal drugs, as defined under the Federal Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, were being sold. Despite the license suspension, the store continues to operate, selling mushrooms, LSD, peyote, DMT, coca, and kratom. The dispensary is located a couple blocks from City Hall and a short walk from the Vancouver Police Department. So it doesn't look like they're hiding it in any way. The police raids, they say it was November 2023. They executed a search warrant at the dispensary and 2 others on East Hastings Street and Granville Street. The panel heard the police seized a total of 27 kilograms of psilocybin, 2.2 kilograms of coca leaf, 2.7 kilograms of LSD, and 1 kilogram of DMT. No charges were laid. Although exemptions exist in BC for people who possess and consume drugs for personal use, it is illegal to traffic psilocybin and other psychedelic drugs unless an exemption for Health Canada has been obtained, for example, for a clinical trial. The letter from Health Canada to the city points out that psilocybin is classified as a restricted drug under Part J of the Food and Drug Regulations, meaning it cannot be sold to the general public. Even holders of a controlled substance dealer's license cannot sell psilocybin to the general public, the letter says. Health Canada maintains the positions that illegal operating storefronts pose a risk to the health and safety of Canadians. And figures, even though I walked the dog before the show, she still wants to go out. And of course, I'm alone, so she may have to wait a few minutes. The letter was mentioned by city councillors at Wednesday's meeting, where the Green Party's Adrian Carr and Pete Fry introduced a motion to have the city consider regulating business licenses for retailers of psilocybin, peyote, mescaline, ayahuasca, and kratom. Just so you know, after the dog walked for a walk just before the show. Carr and Fry formed the majority of the three-person business license review panel that allowed the dispensary on West Broadway to continue operating with its current license. The councillors argued at the time and again on Wednesday that the city had set up a retail framework in 2025 to regulate medical cannabis dispensaries after cannabis was made legal 6 years later by the federal government. Fry said on Wednesday that through a regulatory framework, we can prevent access to children and young people. We can have standards of retail that can inform how they're displayed, what kind of signage, the visibility, a location of retail outlets. This regulatory framework is not about legalizing mushrooms or ethogens. Rather, it's just creating a regulatory framework for how businesses operate. It's sort of like in Toronto for when they had the vapor lounges. There was no laws for or against them, but the operators still stuck to certain things, such as the age requirement and no tobacco, so on and so forth. They say that more than a dozen citizens, including well-known drug legalization advocate Dana Larson, spoke to council in support of the motion. Larson is the director of the Strathcona Tea Society, a nonprofit that handles finances and logistics of the Broadway dispensary and two others in Vancouver. He also referred to the Council of the Day's move in 2015 to regulate cannabis dispensaries as the reason to do the same for mushroom dispensaries, which he estimated had grown to 24 in Vancouver. He says, if council chooses to not pass this motion and to ignore the issue, it's only going to come up again, and we're only going to see more and more of these kinds of stores opening. Now, Errol Conrad, an employee of the medicinal mushroom dispensary and chemistry student at the University of BC, told council that psilocybin, LSD, and mescaline do not endanger lives, they save lives. I have firsthand seen the substances that we provide alleviate the symptoms of depression, anxiety, trauma, years of dependence on antidepressants, nicotine addiction, alcoholism, and toxic marriage, he says. Some of my friends would have ended their lives. They would not be here with us if it wasn't for the kind of work that we provide at the mushroom dispensary. Lawyer Turk Kusa, who acted on behalf of the medical cannabis dispensaries prior to the city regulating them, recommended council read an article published in May of 23 in the International Journal of Mental Health and Addiction. The article, Changed Substance Use After Psychedelic Experiences Among Individuals in Canada, was authored by an assistant professor and researcher at the University of Michigan, along with president of Victoria Clinic Group focused on providing psychedelic-assisted therapies for pain and mental health. The authors concluded an online survey of 1,639 adults who self-reported past or current psychedelic use. The trio investigated whether psychedelic use was associated with self-reported changes in the use of other substances. The results found that 44% decreased or ceased alcohol use, 43% ceased or decreased antidepressants use, and 42% decreased or ceased cocaine use, according to the article. Now, M.J. Malloy, an assistant professor of medicine at UBC and research scientist at the British Columbia Center for Substance Use, cautioned council about drawing parallels between cannabis and ethogens as alternatives to toxic drugs. He says he studied overdoses in the downside east side for 15 years, and in 2017 focused his research on the potential of cannabis to serve as a beneficial intervention in the overdose crisis. The motion makes sort of an explicit parallel between cannabis and ethogens with the respect to the overdose crisis. Unfortunately, scientifically, the evidence is not there yet to support the use of ethogens in this way, contrary to the findings we have seen so far with the cannabis. And, that would be all showing anecdotal evidence, the same as what cannabis patients have been showing for years. And yet, Health Canada still doesn't recognize medicinal benefits of cannabis, even though we've had a program for over 20 years. He goes on to say at the same time that it's not, continues that it's not to say that the ideas are not plausible. Indeed, the recent clinical trials with ethogens have, in fact, demonstrated quite thrilling results with respect to using these substances as treatments for depression, anxiety, addiction, pain, and trauma, and other things, which underlay the overdose crisis. However, importantly, these molecules have not been demonstrated to be safe among people who use drugs at higher risk of overdose, and indeed, there may be interactions between these different substances. And there could be. There are unfortunately, a lot of anecdotal evidence, not the standard evidence of going through all these different trials, but obviously a lot of patients are finding benefit to it, and some people need to take some action on it. The ABC Vancouver majority defeated the Greens motion 5-2, with Councillor Brian Montague arguing the motion was an extension of the business license review panel's decision to allow the West Broad dispensary to continue operating. He's a retired police officer and accused Carr and Fry of exploiting their position as councillors and engaging in activism. This motion was absolutely no business being considered by municipal government, he says. I'm not here to debate the merits of the harms of potential product. I'm here to say that this is not our lane. This is not our jurisdiction. We shouldn't be touching with this with a 10-foot pole. So there you go. That's what's happened there. On Health Canada has gotten involved in that. So they had the meeting, and to decide on what to do. As I mentioned, there's something about a vote of 5-2. So let's take a little bit deeper look into that, how that meeting went, with our next article. And this one comes to us from the Prince George Post, and the headline says that Vancouver Council rejects motion to permit the sale of magic mushrooms. There you go, some magic mushrooms. Vancouver City Council has rejected a motion that would have permitted the sale of magic mushrooms and other psychedelic drugs in the city. Scroll on past the ads here. On Wednesday, Vancouver Mayor Kim said the sale of those drugs was illegal, and that creating a regulatory framework for retail sales of psilocybin and ethogens in the city was not the role of the federal, was the role of the federal government. While we acknowledge the importance of this national conversation, we firmly believe this needs to be discussed at the federal level, as they are the regulating body on the issue. Our focus remains on addressing the critical issues facing Vancouverites that are within our jurisdiction. This includes core services such as public safety, housing, roads, and infrastructure. The motion was made by Vancouver Green Councillor Pete Fry and Adrian Carr, and stated the number of unlicensed and unregulated retail shops selling magic mushrooms and other ethogens in Vancouver had rapidly increased in recent years. Although most mushrooms and ethogens are classified as controlled substances, there has been no prosecution or conviction of their retailers, and to date, no business license regulations specific to their sale or display. Now, in March, at a Vancouver business license hearing, a 3-person panel voted to reissue the business license of the dispensary, a decision that the store operator, Dana Larson, described at the time as cracking the door open for regulation of psilocybins in the city. The panel, comprised of Fry Carr and fellow councillor Mike Klassen. The medical mushroom dispensary on Broadway there had its license, as mentioned before, suspended in 2023 after being inspected. And in the end, it says that the business licensor and the panel approved a motion to ask staff to reinstate the license to terms to clarify the business involving education advocacy of medicinal psychoactive substances. And so now we know that Vancouver has not approved that business license. So it's going to be interesting to see what Dana's next steps are. And we will keep an eye on that and see what happens. And on to our next story of the day. And this one comes to me from Entrepreneur. Headline says FDA commissioner says DEA has no reason to delay cannabis rescheduling decision. Oh, lost my mouse. There we go. And starts off with the U.S. U.S. Food and Drug Administration, that's the FDA, Commissioner Robert Califf said this week that there's no reason for the DEA to delay its cannabis rescheduling decision. Califf made this statement during testimony on Thursday before the House Oversight and Accountability Committee, suggesting he does not believe the DEA is purposely dragging its feet on last year's rescheduling recommendations from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Notably, it was reported in February that some DEA officials are skeptical about the recommendation to move cannabis from Schedule 1 to 3 under the Controlled Substances Act. The commissioner also responded to criticism by Texas Rep. Pete Sessions that the rescheduling effort did not base its assessment in scientific facts or realities and completely ignores realities of a drug that is causing enormous consequences for U.S. children and adults. Wow. Let me remind you that Schedule 3 does not put cannabis on the market in the United States. So it doesn't even legalize it for access, as over 25 states have done. Meanwhile, a group of 14 GOP lawmakers last year asked DEA Administrator Ann Milgram to reject the HHS recommendation to reclassify cannabis. Meanwhile, a dozen Senate Democrats requested in January that President Biden remove cannabis from the federal drug schedule entirely. Well, there you go. Well, at least we know that one party wants it completely removed, and let's hope eventually it gets to that point, because it doesn't make sense for them to have the cannabis being illegal federally when all these states have got it legal medicinally, as well as there's many that have it legal federally. So just so you know, I've heard from Glenn. He says, Al, you're doing a great job, but you look a little bit lonely. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I am lonely. Let's hear about myself, guys. So he says so he couldn't make it, and he says that Sessions is an idiot and always was. So thanks, Glenn. We'll see you on Thursday. You should have everything ready to go by then, and we'll get to the news before the 4:20. So we'll be able to do all that. Okay. On to the next story. And this one, it also comes from me from the Entrepreneur. And the headline on it says, I got to turn off that comment there. There we go. Headline here from Entrepreneur reports, Cannabis Industry Currently Supports 440,000 plus full-time jobs. Okay. Now, cannabis, as we all know, it's illegal federally, but yet almost 500,000 jobs. So why is it still illegal federally? This does not make sense. But it is. Here we go. The cannabis industry now supports 440,445 full-time equivalent jobs, according to the 2024 Vance Jobs Report, published this week by the cannabis jobs platform Vance. In partnership with Whitney Economics, the report also found that the industry added 22,952 new jobs in 2023, which was a 5% increase over the previous year. The report also tracked the value of cannabis products sold in 2023 to a total of $28 billion, which was $2.7 billion, or a little over 9% more than the previous year. Revenues are expected to continue to rise in 2024, with the report predicting another 9% rise in annual revenue this year, with particularly hot job market expected to open up in Ohio, New York, New Jersey, and Maryland as states' industries continue to develop. The industry's overall job growth represents an important turnaround after approximately 2% decline in cannabis jobs from 2022 to 2023. Vance is the Denver, Colorado-based cannabis industry hiring platform, and Whitney Economics is an Oregon-based cannabis hemp industry data and economics research firm. So, yet again, why is cannabis illegal federally with billions of dollars and all these jobs for an industry that apparently is so bad that they have to keep these laws on the books? Like, it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. But hey, they're the ones that makes the laws, so what can we do? Okay, well, I'm halfway through everything here, and I think it's time for me to take a break. Medication time. I'm right back after my joint session with myself and the dog. I got a dog out, so I'll have a joint session with her. So right back. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News here at paceradio.net. We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor. If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
Legacy 420 have an awesome array of cannabis-infused beverages, from pop to Nature's Nectar's teas, all in amazing flavors. What a selection! We even have a delicious mango-infused juice, and let me tell you, it's delicious.
Everything is infused in-house, so we buy our syrup from, the same place where everybody else buys their syrup for their pop, and the infusion is done in the lab. It's all canned here, labeled here, produced 100% on Tyndonega.
We have 2 lines of drinks. One's called our Nature's Nectar. That was our original line that we came out with. And then we also have a line under the Red E brand. We have them in 10 milligrams, 30 milligram, and 60 milligram cans.
What a great selection for a get-together with friends or after a long day. Remember, if you want to wet your whistle with on-site lab-tested products, come see your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. And you're live with Psychedelics Cannabis Education and News here at paceradio.net. Glenn's off today. He's doing the move thing, and Cindy is out in British Columbia. I saw her post a picture that she was walking barefoot amongst sand and warm temperatures and stuff like that. She figured she was probably had gone ahead by 5 or 6 weeks because didn't expect that type of weather at home for at least that amount of time. But looks like she's having a good time, and we'll hear more from her when she gets back from her trip. But in the news, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 more stories to cover. And first up, this one comes to us from the Pew Research Center. They say 9 facts about Americans and cannabis. Let's see what it says. The 9 facts. I'll just quickly go through them. It says here the use and possession of cannabis is legal under U.S. federal law, but about 3/4 of states have legalized it for medical or recreational purposes. The changing legal landscape has coincided with the decades-long rise in public support for legalization the majority of Americans now favor. So here are 9 facts about Americans' views of and experience with cannabis based on the Pew Research surveys and other substances. They say around 9 in 10 Americans say cannabis should be legal for medical or research or recreational use. Well, what are you waiting for, Joe? 9 in 10? Yeah, it's a pretty high number. You can see there on the chart, it says that 57% say it should be legal for medical and recreational use. 32 said it should be legal for medical use only, and 11 said it should not be legal. Just 11% said it should not be legal for something. Number 2, views on the cannabis legalization differed widely by age and political party, race and ethnicity. They say older adults, 31% of adults age 75 and older support cannabis legalization for medical and recreational purposes. Republican and GOP leaning independents, they say 42% of Republicans favor legalizing cannabis for both, while 72% of Democrats support it. They say Hispanic and Asian Americans, 45% in each group support legalization it for either. And larger shares of Black and white adults hold this view. Support for marijuana legalization, number 3, has increased dramatically over the last 2 decades. I imagine it has. You can see it right there. See where it's crossed the path, and up to 70% there. Number 4, half of the U.S. adults, 50.3%, say they have ever used cannabis. According to the 2022 poll, they said that is a smaller share than the 84% who said they have ever consumed alcohol, and 64% who have used tobacco. Say number 5, while many Americans say legalizing recreational cannabis has economic and criminal justice benefits, views of these and other impacts vary. Economic benefits, half of the Americans say that legalizing recreational cannabis is good for local economies. They say criminal justice system reforms. 42% of Americans say that legalizing cannabis for recreational use makes the criminal system fairer. About 4 in 10 say it has no impact. Really? Use of other drugs. 27% say this policy decreases the use of other drugs like heroin, fentanyl, and cocaine. And 29% say it increases it. But the largest share, 42%, say it has no effect on other drug use. Community use. 21% say recreational legalization makes communities safer. 34% say it makes them less safe. And another 44% say it doesn't impact safety. It sure won't make it any worse. Most Americans, at number 6, support easing penalties for people with cannabis convictions. 2/3 of the adults say that they favor releasing people from prison who are being held on cannabis-related offenses only, including 41% who strongly favor this, and 61% support removing or expunging cannabis offenses from people's criminal records. Yes, and I see a lot of that goes on down in the U.S., and it's really disappointing what's happened here in Canada. They say younger adults, Democrats, and Black Americans are especially likely to support these changes. For instance, 74% of Black adults favor releasing people from prison who are being held for cannabis-related offenses, and just as many favor removing or expunging cannabis-related offenses for criminal records. Number 7, 24 states and the District of Columbia have legalized small amounts of cannabis for both medical and recreational use as of March 2024. There we go. Basically halfway there. This doesn't make sense. It's still illegal federally. Now, according to the National Organization, which is NORML, an advocacy group, which we know all about them, other remaining 12 states all allow limited access to products such as CBD. Let's see here. It says another 14 states have legalized cannabis for medical use only. Okay. So 24, and then there's the 14. So there's your 38. And the remaining 12 states that allow limited access to products such as CBD oil that contain little or no THC. And 26 states overall have it at least partially decriminalized recreational use as of the District of Columbia. Well, there you can see the chart there. In addition, 24 states and DC, see the U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam, the Northern Mariana Islands have legalized cannabis for medical and recreational use. Number 8, more than half of Americans live in a state where both recreational and medical cannabis are legal. 74% live in a state where it's legal either for both purposes or medical use only. 9, about 8 in 10 Americans, 79%, live in a country with at least one cannabis county with at least one cannabis dispensary. And you know what? All this, and the sky hasn't fallen. Like, these are numbers that should be giving an administration the thing to go ahead and do it finally, instead of holding back. It just doesn't make sense. And I'll be feeling that way until to get around to it, and then it won't be perfect, and just no different than here in Canada. It's not perfect, and we got to keep fighting for more changes, and it's going to have to continue down in the U.S. Just as it will here. People can still celebrate the culture and still protest the fact that things need to be changed and things need to be improved on. So, but that's what the Global Marijuana March is for, and that's why they've asked people to do I March for, and then fill in the blank. Explain why. Alrighty, on to the next story, and this one here might surprise a few people. This comes to us from CBC News, and it says charges for Chatham man after lit joint thrown at woman's forehead. The police say, yeah, someone threw a lit joint at a woman, and the man has been charged with assault with a weapon. The joint is a weapon. Chatham man has been charged with assault with a weapon after allegedly flicked a lit cannabis joint at his neighbor. According to Chatham Kent police, officers responded around 5:30 on Wednesday for a dispute between neighbors in Tilbury. Police say a man confronted a woman over a parking space. The confrontation escalated when the man flicked the lit marijuana cigarette at the woman, striking her in the forehead, police said in a media statement. The 25-year-old Chatham man was arrested, charged with assault with a weapon, and released. He will appear in court at a later date. Wow, I'm going to have to follow that, see what happens. You know, maybe people find out they can't flick joints at people because it's assault. So, all right, talking about arresting people. This next story, the headline on it, I went, what? Police arrest international gang in $686 million medicinal cannabis scam. And this comes to us from VOA News. Wow, that's a lot of dough. This comes to us from Madrid, so it's out of Spain. Police, led by Spain on Thursday, arrested members of a gang that allegedly defrauded $686 million from victims in 35 countries in a scam centered around cannabis plants for medicinal use. 35 countries. The gang mounted a marketing system and attended international cannabis fairs to persuade victims to invest in the system, the Spanish National Police said in a statement. It led the operation with the help of Interpol and police services in 5 other countries. 9 suspects who have not been named were detained on April 11th on the suspicion of fraud in Spain, Britain, Germany, Latvia, Poland, Italy, and the Dominican Republic. The spokesperson, Sylvia Garrido, says the business model offered by this organization consisted of using the capital transferred from investors to develop partnerships to finance the cultivation of cannabis plants. With this system, they promised victims profits of about 70% and of 70 and 80 and 168% per year, depending on the species of cannabis in which they invested. The British National Crime Agency, which took part in the operation, said 180,000 people invested funds in juicy fields, which it called a notorious and elaborate Ponzi fraud scheme. The NCA also said that a 42-year-old man appeared in a London court on April 11th for the start of extradition proceedings. Luxury cars, hotel parties, and music videos were used in an advertising campaign to promote the scheme, police said, and victims were taken to legal cannabis plantations that were involved in the scam. Police carried out raids in 2022, but did not say if any suspects have been charged with any offenses. Interesting. This helps give me an answer because I've seen some posts on LinkedIn where a fellow has been saying that he was involved in this Ponzi scheme of this cannabis. So I'm connecting the dots here, and this would be the one. This would be the one. All right, my last story of the day. This one looks to me like it's coming from the Marijuana Moment, and the headline on it tells me. Oh, hit the wrong button, folks. Just a second there. Last story of the day, right? Gotta make the big mistake. Okay, here we go. Story says, headline, Kansas lawmakers consider proposal to jail farmers who grow hemp with too much THC. Okay, hang on. So, we'll read the story, but obviously, hemp has their number, the 0.3% of the THC. So if someone accidentally grows like 5.5% or something because the cannabis happens to, not the cannabis, but their hemp happens to be grown in, expert conditions and happens to have a little more, they could face jail time. Well, we'll find out. Here we go. See what the extremes are on this. It's a bud. State law enforcement, local prosecutors, and lobbyists convinced legalization of medical cannabis posed the greatest threat to quality of life in Kansas. Tried to quietly squeeze into a bill lowering fees on industrial hemp producers, and an amendment that could send wayward farmers to prison for years. The threshold between freedom and incarceration under the amendment, advocated by the executive director of Stand Up for Cannabis, or Kansas, the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, and Kansas County and District Attorneys Association, would be a laboratory test measurement whether a hemp product had a THC content greater than 1%. The U.S. Department of Agriculture and the state of Kansas allow harvesting, processing, and marketing of hemp with less than 0.3%. So they're going to 1, all the way up to 1 instead of like 0.5, but still. Now, according to Senator Carolyn McGinn, she says, I just need help understanding who are we going after. I hope it's not our industrial hemp producers. Is there some place we can look to find out how much this is being abused? I'm trying to understand where all this abuse is at. Why do we need this law? Stand Up for Kansas leader Katie Wisman said she couldn't document the threat posed by crooked hemp farmers. The former Kansas Bureau of Investigation minister did say establishment of industrial hemp has a row crop in Kansas, creating a lot of confusion for law enforcement personnel. She said one source of frustration was the challenge of differentiating between legal hemp and illegal cannabis. She says they look the same. They smell the same. Is that hemp? Is that cannabis? How do you enforce that? Well, I thought the police officers were experts on this. Current Kansas law mandated that legal industrial hemp products contain less than 0.3% THC. Existing state statute states first-time violators could be charged with a misdemeanor, and the second offense could be a low-grade felony, resulting in prohibition. Wisman's amendment would retain those sentencing subjects for hemp, but add a third layer of penalties so law enforcement officers could raise the stakes for hemp industry participants trafficking higher level THC products. Depending on the quality of the hemp tested higher than 1% THC, the proposed revision of state law could lead to sentences as long as 154 months. What's that? 12 times 12 is 144, so 13 years, basically. The new THC merit should be deployed, Weisman said, despite presence of profoundly higher THC levels in cannabis demanded by recreational consumers in Colorado and Missouri. Greenlight Marijuana Dispensary, which is 750 feet from the Kansas border in Kansas City, Missouri, offered cannabis ranging from 16% to 30% THC. There were dozens of choices, but middle-of-the-road options, including Banja Frog, registered at 23.6%, and some other strains there as high as 26%. They say at least 16 states have authorized medical cannabis programs, only with 24 states with the legal recreational. The plan, they say, is to crack down on potential hemp farm renegades interested. Havana's Senators Virgil Peck. He's a chairman of the Senate Agricultural and Natural Resource Committee. We welcome Weisman's unconventional presentation on the law enforcement request to the 6th House and Senate negotiators working last week to compose agricultural legislation. So why do they want to throw hemp farmers in jail? The reason I'm bringing this forward is to make certain hemp is hemp, and hemp growers do not get out of their lane. It's the real reason, just to cut the chase. Why am I presenting this? Is there a problem? The proposed appeared to catch several negotiators off guard, and the House Agriculture Committee Chairman, Agro GOP Rep. Ken Rajas, said he wouldn't agree to add the proposal to a bill. I understand the heartburn, Peck said before rescinding his commitment to endorsing conservation district and poultry bills sought by the House, but hardball politics left the agricultural bill with prohibitions on spying at confined animal operations and tweaks to state law on registering horse and cattle brands. Boy, this is going all over the place. Negotiators could resume talks on hemp law when the legislature returns to Topeka at the end of the month. The hemp crime amendment was eventually placed in a conference committee bill. The maneuver would serve as a textbook distortion of the legislative process. Typically, advocates of reform begin with an introduction of a bill in the House or Senate that could lead to a public hearing and committee votes. Advocates of a bill must labor to win majority support in the 125-member House and 40-member Senate. If graced by good fortune on both sides of the Capitol, the proponents could seek support from the governor with veto power. So there you go. It's a long story, and it's going to go on for quite a while. But you want to put hemp farmers in jail. 13 years for growing hemp that has a little bit too high THC. Just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. That's going backwards as far as I'm concerned. Hopefully they can get rid of that. It's silliness. So, alrighty. Well, that's it, everybody. Don't forget, this Saturday is 420. That's right, April 20th. It's my 39th wedding anniversary, so I will be celebrating that Friday and Saturday. And other than that, I will see you on Thursday. From the Legacy420.com news desk, that's our news for today. And thanks to our buds at the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, Limestone, City Hydroponics.ca, and Legacy420.com. And in closing, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20 is so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420 enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.